Hello and good morning. Today we are going over IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, or on-premise. What's the difference? My name is Madison Miller and I am the marketing coordinator here at the Business Software Center. We provide smarter software management to other businesses. So if you're interested in learning more about us, please feel free to visit our website at businesssoftwarecenter.com. We do also use a hashtag #CoffeeTalkTBSC. This is used on our social media like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So if you need to get in contact with us, or if you would like to ask any questions or provide any feedback, feel free to use this hashtag #CoffeeTalkTBSC. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner here, and we will certainly get back to you. So today's coffee talk is going to be very exciting. I'm going to dive in a little bit deep on IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. What exactly are they? How does it work? And how does it compare to on-premise? But before I get started, I just want to remind everyone that we do have the questions and answers section open. So if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat box to the right of your screen, and I will be stopping and looking at these questions throughout the presentation. But if I end up not have enough time to get to your questions, like I said, feel free to use our hashtag and I can certainly get back to you. I also wanted to say, if you need to run out of this meeting, don't worry. I am recording the session and I will post it on our YouTube and social media accounts later on today. So I would like to begin by showing the key differences of on-premise versus cloud computing. And I really like this comparison chart here because it shows you what you can get on-premise versus IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. And so for on-premise, everything that you see listed there, applications, data, runtime, all of that is things you need to manage on your own, which means that this is on a desktop, on a computer, in a physical location inside of your office. You need to rely on yourself in order to make sure all of these processes run smoothly. And sometimes whenever you have to rely solely on yourself, it can get a little daunting because this does require a lot of manual labor, a lot of memory. You just have to be very diligent whenever you are using on-premise on-premise. For example, using software. If you're using on-premise software, typically you have to be the one responsible with providing the updates, and so that means you have to do the updates to ensure that your software is secure. Whereas if you look at the way end where it says software as a service, which is SaaS, you can see everything is managed for you through these applications. So if there is a software update, for instance, the software update runs automatically through the cloud. Now you can see that infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, the two in the middle, it's a kind of a hybrid between both. There are certain features that you will have to manage, whereas there are other features that can be managed for you, which can reduce cost, reduce time, increase employee satisfaction, limit the amount of risks involved when it comes to doing the manual labor. And I would like to also show the difference between on-premise software and cloud computing using this model. It's a model of an iceberg, and many of us know how icebergs work. You just see the tip in the water, but underneath there's this giant mass of iceberg that we don't see. And so for on-premise, it definitely has a lot underneath the surface. And as you can see here, software licenses is just the tip of the iceberg, but underneath the water, there's so much more involved to ensure that you are getting the best for your on-premise software. So that means there needs to be a lot of training. There's a lot of maintenance involved, that you have to know the hardware that's involved with everything. There's a lot of manual tasks that you need to do to ensure that your software licenses remain compliant, remain up to date, etc. Whereas if you see here on the right side with the cloud computing iceberg, because software is managed for you with cloud computing, it makes a lot of underneath the surface iceberg stuff more attainable to get, and so it kind of lifts it up out of the water, and you can get a full, complete view, typically all automatically. So an example would be with the Business Software Center. We have an application called Smarter SaaS, and so an example of that would be Smarter SaaS for Microsoft 365. We help monitor your usage, we provide training opportunities, we can reduce costs for you, and all of this is done in a way to kind of see what is underneath the water. So another example of on-premise versus the cloud is Microsoft Teams. I think this is a very easy example because many of us use Microsoft products, Microsoft Office 365, and Teams is included with that. And so an example of cloud computing would be the software as a service, which Microsoft Teams falls into. And so using Microsoft Teams to edit a Word document is made very easy through the cloud because you can share the documents via Teams. It's edited in real time using the internet, using a web browser. Whereas with on-premise, that same Word document, you have to send via email, and it could get lost in the shuffle. You might forget which version you're on. So there's a lot more risk involved when it comes to on-premise software. Now, I do have a chart here discussing the cloud growth, and it is predicted that the cloud growth is on the rise. And I mean, we've seen it, especially with the remote working increase that's gone on these past few months. Cloud growth is here to stay, and as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, in 2022, the total cloud market growth is going to be $354.6 billion, which is huge. So I would say if you are on-premise or maybe doing a hybrid, maybe consider switching fully to the cloud. Benefits to this include ensuring that you have up-to-date security. It gets rid of the manual labor. It can save money for you. So I would say, keep up with the times and definitely consider moving to the cloud. Now, I'm sure you knew a lot of the stuff that I prefaced this presentation with, but for those of you who are new to cloud computing, I'm going to dive in more into SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, what's the difference and what it's all about. So this is the part here where a lot of people don't know PaaS or IaaS, whereas SaaS is the most popular. And because SaaS is popular, everyone understands that as a cloud computing. But yes, I'm going to just dive in a little bit deeper here to explain to everyone what exactly cloud computing is and the differences between on-premise. So cloud computing is hosting, storing, managing, and processing data online via the cloud. And so we do have SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS for that. Those are the three big ones. And so for IaaS, it's infrastructure as a service. And so that means servers, networks, operating systems, and data storage. Virtual servers do not physically own servers. So what's really nice about that is you don't have to pay for additional servers to be on premise with you. You can use a virtual server somewhere else, and that can give you the ability to access and store data via a dashboard or an API. The storage and service space to build new software and hardware, which is really nice. It gives you kind of the foundations to do the software and hardware. It encourages new tech over the cloud. And you know how I was saying earlier how the cloud is growing? Well, it's certainly going to keep growing, especially with IaaS, because it does encourage new tech to be developed over the cloud. And as I said before, on-premise is really complicated because it means you have to physically manage the data on site. An example of an IaaS would be Microsoft Azure. This is really popular when it comes to building, testing, and managing applications. So that would just be an example to give a real-world idea of what IaaS is. Now, as far as PaaS, PaaS is a platform as a service. And so this is primarily used for developers to create software. And what's really nice about a platform as a service is that you do not need to start from scratch. It's great, and it saves time, it saves money. So those who are developing software, don't need to start from scratch. You have a baseline for yourself. Platforms for custom built applications, they create unique apps without the cost. And platform as a service also provides data serving, storage, and management. So an example of this would be the Google App Engine. Now, with the Google App Engine, you can build and host web apps, and this is all managed via Google. So you get everything involved with that, which means you also get the cloud-based data centers, which is fantastic because with Google, there is a lot of data centers you can work from. But then you also get the added bonus of having the security features with Google as well. So it's really nice using these cloud computing engines because it really takes away the hassle and the worry on your end. It reduces the strain on your IT department, on your developers. It kind of packaged things up in a bow for you and gives you the opportunity to get started rather than worrying so much about the costs of hosting your own engine or data center. So software as a service. Now, this is the one I said is the most popular. A lot of people are probably familiar with software as a service, and also software as a service is the easiest version of cloud computing because this is delivered 100% to you automatically. There is really very minimal manual effort. So I'm just going to go ahead and review the highlights that I have here. So software as a service is a cloud-based software. So that means that it's hosted online and delivered online. So you don't have to do anything you don't have to do any installing or downloading. You can access your applications through a web browser. As I said before, it's the most commonly used cloud service. It is an out-of-the-box solution, and it does offer security, compliance, and maintenance as part of the cost. And it's the most modern SaaS platforms are built on IaaS or PaaS platforms. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. So SaaS is kind of an extension of IaaS and PaaS. And I think this ability to build off of IaaS or PaaS platforms to generate SaaS is going to make software essentially limitless. Hopefully more things can become more automatic for us and create an easier way of managing everyday work struggles. So an example, we have the characteristics of SaaS. So some of the key characteristics of SaaS is it reduces the need for on-premise hosting. So reducing the need for on-premise hosting is amazing because not only do you reduce the cost, but you reduce really the hassle of maintaining anything on-premise. Now, SaaS is also scalable. So for instance, if you're a small business and you're looking at projected business growth, taking on new employees, what's really nice is SaaS is flexible and scalable, and it can definitely work with simultaneously alongside the growth of your business. So an example of that would be, say for instance, you hired 5 new employees. You can use a SaaS application such as Microsoft Office 365, and you can sign them up for the software. And this means that month to month, you can flex your subscribers up or down. So if you keep having more and more employees added to your payroll, you can scale up month to month your subscriptions. Now, on the reverse side of that, say for instance, you only need a freelancer for a few months. At the end of their contract, you can scale the subscriptions that you need down month to month. I feel like this is a very accessible, it's very cost effective for your business as compared to on-premise. Typically with the Microsoft licenses, on the EA model, you have to commit to a 3-year contract, and you have to limit yourself to the amount of licenses that you purchase. And if you exceed that amount, it can be very risky because you will no longer be in compliance of your licenses. And the pitfalls to that would be obviously having to pay fines, in worst case scenario going to court because you're not in compliance with your licenses. So I mean, using SaaS can really reduce the risks even with compliance issues. Now, going back to the characteristics here, as I said, it works for any size business, and it's a simple setup. So typically these setups shouldn't take too long. As I said, there's no downloading, so you don't have to worry about any of that. Typically it's just, you know, a username and a password that you would need just to set this up for you. So I do have an example of a SaaS product. This example is Jira. I have used Jira, and our team here uses Jira, and it's really easy project management software solution. You can see here on the left-hand side, I do have a photo of an example of the dashboard. And so Jira is a month-to-month subscription software, which is a key characteristic of SaaS software. And now with Jira, because it's a project management software, you can track your team remotely, you can log online to access this, and you don't need to download or install. So you can see through this example here that SaaS really can work with a lot of different areas, not only with project management, for instance, but you know, with just everyday office communication, like I was using the example of Microsoft Teams. So the question here is, where do you start? Depending on the size and the needs of your business, you can certainly move on-premise to the cloud. I would say here at the Business Software Center, we can help you with the determining what applications you have on-premise and getting them switched over to SaaS for you on cloud software with our smarter migration tools. But if you need any consulting, please feel free to email us at sales@businesssoftwarecenter.com. We can certainly help you kind of narrow down exactly what your business needs as far as getting you on the cloud. Now, I did mention this earlier, but I want to mention it here as well. There is a level of complexity when it comes to your software or your cloud computing, etc. So you can see that I have the list here, and it goes from the most complex to the least complex. And if you can kind of remember the table that I had earlier when it comes to you managing everything versus somebody else managing it for you, on-premise is the most complex that you have. So if you're still running on-premise with certain things, especially when it comes to project management, communications, etc., I would say definitely consider switching to the cloud. So the level of complexity goes: on-premise is the most complex, IaaS, semi-complex, PaaS, getting a little easier, and SaaS is for sure 100% the easiest thing that you can do. So I would say if you are someone who uses, or I'm sorry, if you're a business who's on softwares, for instance, Salesforce, Adobe, anything like that, definitely get on cloud, on SaaS, because it will make your life easier in the long run. So what I'm actually going to do now is stop my presentation just to see if we have any questions popping in. So let me go ahead and see here. Do we have any questions popping in? Yes, we do. So I have a question here, and it says, is Dropbox a SaaS or an IaaS? I think that's really interesting. We do use Dropbox here at TBSC. And so I'll just go ahead and explain exactly what it is. Dropbox is a cloud storage service. And so what that means is it allows you to store your files on cloud servers remotely. And then you also have the ability to share files And you can share them within your business, or you can send them, you can create links to share and send them to specific email addresses. So Dropbox really is good for online storage, and I would say that it would definitely identify as Infostructure as a service because of that. It's providing the infrastructure to host and store files remotely for you. So yeah, that was a good question. I have another question coming in. It's saying, can you give more examples of SaaS? Yeah, I would say another everyday example of SaaS, I think a lot of people would know this one, is Netflix. Netflix is SaaS because it is software that you are licensed to watch videos on demand or TV shows on demand. And so also with Netflix, it runs on the subscription model where it is month to month. So even though you can do an annual Netflix subscription, a lot of us do the monthly Netflix, and I would say Netflix would be a great example of SaaS if you're still new and getting involved with software as a service. SaaS would be a great example for you. I'm sorry, Netflix would be a great example for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back to my presentation here. Let me just make it bigger here. Okay, here we go. So yeah, just to refresh, where do you start? It really depends on your size and the needs of your business. And of course, you need to consider the level of complexity. If you're looking to make it easier for yourself, cloud computing is the way to go. So here at TBSC, we actually have this amazing new product called Smarter SaaS. And so Smarter SaaS helps manage your SaaS subscriptions. But in particular today, we are going to look at Microsoft 365. And so what our Smarter SaaS for 365 does for you is it creates fully automatic reports and analysis. So an example of this would be getting a fully automatic report and analysis of your usage. Say, for instance, somebody is using, all of your employees have a Microsoft Teams, but unfortunately, some of them are still using Skype for whatever reason, or they're using Zoom. Our software analysis can help you see who is fully utilizing their Microsoft licenses, and then we can also give you this information and say, hey, so-and-so isn't really using Teams for video calls. Why is that? And we can provide them training opportunities to teach them how to use these products through Microsoft. So Microsoft actually provides these trainings for your team just to ensure that they know what's going on. Now, another thing that Smarter SaaS does for you is you can, you can view individual usage, software usage to date. And so I would say the great thing about that is because our software is hosted in the cloud, we can pull data nearly instantly for you. Our software, it only takes about 15 minutes to set up. It's super easy, probably less than that, honestly, as long as you have the right login details. And you can get a full software usage report, and it will be up to date. But then also we can backtrack it for you. So say you want to see 60 days ago, we can certainly pull that data for you to compare your usage from 60 days ago versus your usage today. Now, also a great thing about Smarter SaaS is we provide cost savings opportunities. So we can show you how much you can save, whether it is reharvesting your current licenses, seeing the surplus of licenses that you're paying for and not using, etc. And we can show you your cost saving opportunities to ensure that there's no cost wastage. There is optimization opportunities as well. We suggest that you get to at least 95% usage on your products. So these optimization opportunities will help you see where your current usage is versus where it could be. And you wouldn't believe how many people and businesses we see, at 50% usage, 75% usage, it's kind of all over the place, and they're paying for this software and yet they're not using it. And, this can certainly be reduced with our Smarter SaaS product. Now, compliance is another thing that we certainly help out with, and compliance is a huge factor to software management. And I would say it's huge because there are big ramifications if you are not compliant with your software. As I mentioned before, you can pay late, you can pay fees, you can even go to court. It's really daunting, it's hard. And this used to be a manual thing. People would spend their time monitoring the software, and it could get lost in the shuffle. And because it used to be a manual task, there was so much risk involved with that. But now that we have Smarter SaaS and we have other cloud computing solutions, these manual tasks are now automatic for you, so you no longer have to worry about compliance so much because Smarter SaaS ensures compliance for you. And so an example of that would be with Microsoft. With Microsoft, they allocate up to 5 different devices you can download your software on. And so our product can see the software, where it's downloaded, so we can tell you whether it's desktop, cell phone, anything like that. We can see where it's downloaded. And if you have somebody who's downloaded 11 times, for instance, they're in the red, and that's a big problem with Microsoft compliance. So we would be able to notify you, hey, so-and-so has downloaded way too much. This is not in compliance. To avoid any bad auditing mistakes, please ensure that they are no longer using those devices and get rid of the software on those devices. Now also with Smarter 365, we do help out with Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is on the rise. It's up there. It's in competition with Zoom for sure. And what's really nice about Microsoft Teams is Microsoft has been completely open to feedback. And Microsoft gets a lot of feedback, and they have really done so many updates, especially since the growth of remote working these last few months. So some new features that they have are can see more than 4 people at a video call, which is fabulous. I love being able to look at people when I'm talking to them. So I mean, they're really competitive when it comes to Zoom. And another nice feature about Microsoft Teams is if you are interested in using it, but you've never used it before, there is a free trial. So feel free to try out that free trial. Okay, so with Smarter SaaS, I don't have time to go into a full demo, but I do have some time to look over the dashboard here. And so this is just a quick view of the dashboard. As I said before, you can see savings to date. Now this is dummy data in here, I believe. So I apologize for the savings to date being a 0. Typically you would see way more than that. But you can see here there is opportunities for reharvesting, optimizing, and there's a surplus. So surplus would mean you paid for software that hasn't been deployed yet. So there is a surplus there, and we can see that for you. And so with surplus, we could be like, hey, are you planning on deploying this yet? Maybe you purchased it and totally forgot about it. So we can certainly figure that out for you. Yes, and also here's an example of different data we can collect for you with Teams. So we can see if your employees are using the messaging features, the chat features, the call features. We can see whether they're active or inactive. So yeah, our Smarter SaaS can really give you a full detailed look on this. And it's one of those things where we can review this information with you. You are not alone in this. So if you ever get confused by the data that we provide, we can certainly review it with you and offer recommendations to you as well. Another nice thing is we reharvest automatically for you. So we even take out the manual effort of that as well. Oh, okay. So I'm going to exit here and see if there's any additional questions. I have been talking a lot, so I'm going to open up and see if there's any additional questions that have been asked. As of now, we do not have any additional questions, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my presentation. I just want to say thank you again so much for joining us. I hope you learned something today. As always, that is a lot of information cram-packed into 30 minutes, so if you need a refresher, I do have a article, a blog post I posted on our website, so feel free to visit us at businesssoftwarecenter.com. I do have a blog post of this information that I have discussed today. I will be posting this video on our social media, so feel free to look at Coffee Talk TBSC hashtag to find us, or you can find us at TBSC on YouTube. We do have a mailing list as well, so feel free to join our mailing list and you will get updates for our next coffee talks, and you will also get the links directly to our previous coffee talk videos. And so feel free to join us for our next coffee talk. It's going to be the 18th of September 2020. This is going to be how to use Teams, so it's going to be a learning session for you. This is great for people who have Teams and Teams live events. So if you're using a business account and you still really are confused with how to use Teams, how to set up meetings, etc., I can certainly help you with that. So the next coffee talk, it's just going to be a little training session. So yes, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again so much for joining me today, and we will speak to you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.